In the news tonight, COVID-19 Delta variant highly transmissible. Parliament precincts closed yet again. And police warns not to discourage people from getting vaccinated.
From the studios of FBC Suva, Edwin Nunn.
Bulawinaka, Fiji. First up, New Zealand has once again offered to assist Fiji if and when our country asks for assistance to fight the current rise of COVID-19 cases. New Zealand has already given Fiji 250,000 doses of vaccine and also last month announced a massive 60 million Fijian dollar budgetary support to Fiji. This was in response to the economic crisis caused by COVID-19. Now with case numbers increasing, New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern says they are ready to assist more. And it's been a month today since Fiji last had a zero-case day since the second wave of COVID-19. Kritika Kumar joins us live now. Kritika, can you tell us what the trend has been?
Edwin, the last 2 days have presented the highest daily tolls with 64 yesterday and 83 on Sunday. This goes in line with what the Permanent Secretary for Health, Dr. James Fong, has been warning that Fiji will be recording an increase in the number of cases recorded daily. It has been 9 days since Fiji had a daily total below 20. Edwin.
Kritika, there was also a protest in Monikoso Nasinu earlier today. What did the people want?
Edwin, the residents were claiming that they have not had food for days and they were calling for rations. The Ministry of Economy had to deploy teams to deliver more than 100 food packs. The coordinator Kamal Gounder has told FBC News that time is a factor that needs to be considered and more deliveries will be done tomorrow. Edwin, we can also confirm that the services at the Valelevu Health Centre has been suspended. This is after 2 patients tested positive for COVID-19. Edwin.
Kritika. As Fiji continues to grapple with the second wave of COVID-19, medical experts are sounding alarms on the seriousness of the Delta variant that is present here. Delta is the new name for B1617.2, the double mutant strain that was first identified in India last October. The variant affecting us at the moment does not have a further specification of lineage at this time and is classed as Delta Plus. Fiji, which as of last night has 515 active cases in isolation, and the World Health Organization say the only way to get hold of escalating number of cases of the virus in any country is through access to vaccination. Lina Rees reports.
With more variants of the virus having emerged since the start of the pandemic last year, WHO has deemed the variant in Fiji as one that is highly dangerous.
The Delta variant is indeed more transmissible than the Alpha variant, and it is spreading in the UK. It's spreading in more than 60 countries right now around the world. As the virus spreads, the more variants will be detected. And we are seeing these worrying trends of increased transmissibility.
Dr. Vankakov adds that regardless of the number of variants, no form of the virus can be taken lightly.
Because, as you've heard the Director General say, no one is safe until everyone is safe. And virus variants are circulating. The SARS-CoV-2 virus, whether it's a variant of concern or not, is a dangerous virus.
The WHO Director General has again emphasized the great need for vaccinations to help fight the deadly virus globally as poor nations continue to face discrimination.
Low-income countries have administered just 0.4%. The most frustrating thing about this statistic is that it hasn't changed in months. Inequitable vaccination is a threat to all nations, not just those with the fewest vaccines.
Dr. Tedros says the inequitable distribution of vaccines has allowed the virus to continue spreading, increasing the chances of a variant emerging that renders vaccine less effective. Lina Rees, FBC News.
The Parliament precincts is closed again after yet another Secretariat staff has been identified as a primary contact of a COVID-19 patient. This is the second time within a week that a Secretariat staff has been identified as a primary contact. Last week, the Parliament sitting had to be moved because of the scare. An advisory by the Speaker of Parliament, Ratu Ipeli Nailatikau, confirms that as a precautionary measure and out of an abundance of caution, the parliamentary precincts and offices will be closed with immediate effect. We have received confirmation that this employee was not in direct contact with any of the MPs who'd attended parliamentary sittings until yesterday. It's believed the employee was in his own assigned bubble. The Fiji Police Force is urging Fijians not to discourage people from receiving the COVID-19 vaccine. This follows numerous cases where people through social media platforms have advocated against the life-saving jab. Sainia Nimboila reports Acting Police Commissioner Rusiate Tundravu has warned those responsible will be taken to task.
The police force will track down people who use social media to dishearten others from getting the shot and spreading misinformation about the vaccine.
You can use social media in whatever things you want to say, but do not cross the line. Because this is the whole government approach. What we would like to do is assist the Ministry of Health as much as we can. Vaccination is not mandatory. We would like to encourage people to come.
Health Permanent Secretary Dr. James Fong says the COVID-19 misinformation is a major hurdle for the ministry in trying to get Fijians protected.
All this misinformation does give us a little bit of a problem in terms of trying to protect Fiji. At the end of the day, the vaccine always protects against severe disease and death, which is what we want ultimately.
If you don't want to be vaccinated, that's your own decision. Stay it within you. Keep it with you, but don't influence people. Don't try and get people not to go to the vaccination.
With continuous increase of daily COVID-19 cases, the Fiji Police Force is calling on Fijians to support the national effort in the COVID-19 fight by getting vaccinated and stay home in order to be safe. Sainia Nimboila, FBC News.
Up ahead, fire destroys copra shed. And meeting children's nutritional need a challenge. Welcome back. The COVID-19 AstraZeneca vaccine effectively protects the vulnerable and Fijians with comorbidity issues against the Delta virus. Vaccination Task Force head Dr. Rachel Devi says vaccination is not mandatory. However, they want Fijians to get the jab to reduce hospitalization, effects of severe disease, and ultimately death. Dr. Devi says the current pandemic in Fiji is seeing an increasing number of cases daily. Therefore, Fijians need to be protected. Kritika Kumar reports.
The Vaccination Task Force head says the non-communicable disease crisis is high in Fiji, which increases the vulnerability of Fijians.
That's one of the main reasons from the very beginning we've been saying, apart from frontliners, get all the elderly, those individuals with, diabetes, hypertension, any other cardiac issues, immunocompromised, cancer, etc., to get the jab and get them earlier on so they are protected.
Speaking during a panel discussion, Professor Fiona Russell highlighted that the benefits of the vaccine outweigh the risks.
There's a very small risk of having a, one of these things happen, these bleeding clot things. And, with over 200,000 doses already administered, there hasn't been a case. And in the context of having 4 deaths.
Dr. Devi says 4 who died due to COVID-19 in Fiji did not have the opportunity to get their shot.
The first 2 were, I think, those individuals who traveled from India back to Fiji after medical treatment. They had obvious comorbid issues. And the recent 2 deaths as well we've had in Fiji also had comorbid issues as well.
Fiji recorded 2 COVID-19 related deaths last year and 2 more this year. Kritika Kumar, FBC News.
Fiji coconut millers will now work to quickly rebuild its main copra drying shed after it was destroyed in a fire over the weekend. Chief Executive John Deo says the fire occurred in the early hours of Saturday and started from one of the dryers. Speaking to FBC News, he says the mill was conducting 24-hour drying when it's alleged the firewood overheated, causing the blaze. Deo adds the incident is a major setback as they won't be able to buy coconuts from farmers. The company has lost around 4 weeks' supply of coconuts. The total cost of damage is estimated at $200,000. The Education Ministry and Telecom Fiji have launched a learning hub to provide access to supplementary learning resources for students. Permanent Secretary for Education, Dr. Angela Jochen, says initiatives such as these ensure that all possible efforts are made to provide educational resources to students. She says we cannot predict how things will evolve over the coming days, and as such, Learning Hub will assist students. The platform provides a one-stop shop for supplementary educational materials, including an archive of past lessons that have already been broadcast.
Resources include worksheets, audio and video lessons, Bula Kids episodes, and some psychological support materials. These can be viewed multiple times. However, they cannot be downloaded due to copyright restrictions.
The second wave of COVID-19 can have a huge impact on the nutritional needs of children, affecting their physical and mental development. With the majority of breadwinners now at home, some families are not able to afford fresh produce and essential food as they struggle to live on a tight budget. Kelly Vatala has more.
The COVID-19 health crisis is affecting the most vulnerable population, including children.
No work, so means no income, and no income, stress in your mind for thinking what is next tomorrow. What to buy for the kids. I can't afford food now.
Wellness advocate Dr. Choni Halwea says families have turned to cheaper food due to affordability.
For example, farmers from Naitasiri can only reach the Saweni border. And so from there on is middlemen. By the time that food reaches the families in the greater Suvarnasori corridor, the prices are so high that I might as well buy a packet of noodles.
He adds keeping the next generation safe from viral infections is crucial.
Children, because they are at their fastest growing rate, they require much more micronutrients than grown adults.
Children up to the age of 5 are succumb to diseases and need the most nutrients. Dr. Choni Halwea is encouraging families to have home gardens and eat healthy. Kelly Vatala, FBC News.
And later in sports, netball, Fiji hopes for more competition.
Bearing losses and facing difficulty in paying employees are economic shocks that corporate houses are dealing with when their businesses closed down since the start of this outbreak. However, some say they would rather incur the loss, endure the hardships and reopen with strict safety measures than have the pandemic spiral out of control. Lena Rees reports.
With businesses working to be compliant with safety measures for business continuity, there is still concern over the large number of people flocking to the city.
In a way that we want customers to stay home and do the shopping from home. Most of the businesses are doing deliveries as well. So like the city, we're still seeing that people are coming to the city and want to do the shopping like they used to do before. But we have to understand we're in a new normal.
The Fiji Commerce and Employers Federation says its members understand the pain that needs to be endured as Fiji works to battle this deadly virus.
Let's go through the treatment, endure the treatment, and then once we're done with the treatment, as we come out of it successfully, let's now launch the businesses, but with ensuring that we all adhere to the protocols that we have promised the ministries.
A number of businesses that have been approved to operate by the Ministry of Trade and Commerce have started the process of having online shopping and on-call shopping before working to open its doors to customers in a COVID-safe environment after more than 5 weeks of closure. Lena Rees, FBC News.
Business sustainability is an agenda on the Women Entrepreneurs Business Council priority list as the world of work and business are being profoundly affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. Small, medium and micro enterprises are amongst the first casualties of this pandemic, as majority rely on day-to-day income in order to stay afloat. The Women Entrepreneurs Business Council is working with majority of these enterprises to cushion the blow from the outbreak. Business continuity virtual discussions have allowed members of the Women Entrepreneurs Business Council to strategize and utilize social media platforms during this outbreak.
This is what they've never done, before. Even though we've hit by the pandemic last year, this year was, they know what to do.
Here are the local exchange rates as set early this morning. The Fiji dollar was pegged high against the other international currencies we cover, but lost ground against one of our major trading partners, the Kiwi dollar. Commodities market was mixed today. Crude oil dropped the dollar at $68 a barrel. Gold rose a few dollars to close at $1,900, and silver was up at $27.98. And we now join Stanifa from HFC Bank to give us the latest figures from the money markets.
Good evening. The Aussie and Kiwi dollars kicked off today on a higher note. The data for May showed prices are still rising, however wages paid are now rising faster. In another set of data, Aussie job ads came at a 12-year high, pointing to a continued rapid tightening in the labour market and a steady fall in the jobless rate at 5.5%. The higher readings could increase the inflation expectations. On the other hand, Kiwi gained on the home country better economic prospects and outlook. New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda claimed that the New Zealand economy is outperforming Australia economically. The major difference comes from the unemployment rate. The jobless rate in New Zealand came at 4.7% as compared to 5.5% in Australia. Meanwhile, the US dollar was subdued today, as investors looked to U.S. inflation data due later in the week, after softer-than-expected jobs data quelled expectations of an early tapering in the Federal Reserve stimulus. That's all from HFC Bank for today. Vinaka.
The Fiji Roads Authority will be conducting an extensive road repair work across the country to improve the level of service and safety for road users. Fiji Roads Authority Acting Chief Executive Kamal Prasad says the work includes pothole repairs, resealing, upgrade of certain portions of the Kings and Queens Road. The pothole reduction program will run for 18 months, and the physical work for parts of the Kings Road will commence next month, and it will take approximately 22 months to complete. The authority is also prioritizing the recovery work on the Korosoma Hill realignment that was damaged by tropical cyclones Ana and Yasa, including the coastal protection and resilient low-level crossings in Overlau. The program works is planned for completion in December 2021. And that is the latest from my end, but coming up after the break, Baker uses her talent to earn an income. Stay with us.
Welcome back. The Ministry of Environment today commemorated World Oceans Day with a focus on the Ndraketi River Estuary Shark and Ray Survey. The outcome of the survey reveals that 66% of the fish species, specifically sharks and wedgefish, are listed on the International Union for Conservation of Nature's Red List. The Permanent Secretary for Environment also highlighted that the Ndraketi River estuary is continually selected as a pupping area by adult sharks. He adds that the identification of such areas can be particularly vital for migratory species of shark, hence mitigating the impact of climate change on our ocean is also important. Talent overcomes all odds, and for 30-year-old Taleem Banuve, the love of baking has helped her thrive in a home catering business. With the pandemic posing many financial constraints for families, Banuve has been going doorstep to doorstep to sell her pastries and earn an income for her family. Jeshulal reports Banuve, who was laid off in the West due to the pandemic, chose to venture into the pastry business to help put food on the table.
The COVID-19 pandemic brought in harsh challenges for the Banuve family, but the talented baker says there has been a big demand for specially baked cakes and pies.
Since no one is working at the moment, this is the only source of income that we have as a family.
Banuve adds having baking skills can be an advantage.
It's just a challenge out there, okay? If you're working and you're struggling out there, you can have something on the sideline. And you know, people here in Fiji, they can never guys food. And that is one of the things that you can also have as a source of income.
Because we're all not working, so I think helping in this business will help us more in more income.
Banuve believes no job is big or small as long as one has the passion to keep going forward. The family earns approximately $500 per week through the pastry business. Jeshulal, FBC News.
Post Fiji Limited has a massive backlog of parcels stacked at its different branches over the past few weeks. Chief Executive Dr. Aniruddha Bansoda says this is attributed to the stringent COVID-19 restrictions imposed since last month. However, the agency will not impose an additional fee for the delay in picking up of parcels. He says their call center has been inundated with calls from customers requesting other alternatives to ensure their parcels are safely delivered to their doorstep. Dr. Bansod adds they are putting together strategies to rectify the issue, one of which is conducting a home service delivery with strict COVID-safe protocols.
Yes, there is a backlog of the parcel which is sitting with us, and we totally understand that it is difficult for the people to come to the post shop and collect those sort of things. Because of the containment and not able to come at the post shops, we said that's fine, you just give us a call on the call center and we'll organize your delivery.
And now we'll catch up with Jamie for all the latest in sports.
Pinakayan, good evening. Ahead in sports, and Fiji FA reaches out to players in need. There's some more coming up. The family of NRL player Apisai Koroisau will be glued to their televisions tomorrow night in the hope of seeing the Panthers hooker run onto the field for New South Wales in Game 1 of the State of Origin. Koroisau is one of 3 Fijians named in Brad Fittler's side for the 3-game series.
Despite restrictions, the villagers of Saunaka will be watching the game from their own homes. And we hope Apisai plays in the first game, but if he doesn't, there's other 2 games. Since being named in the team, it has been the topic of discussion in the village, and we just want to wish him and the Blues all the best.
Supporting him throughout, especially he made it to this origin. And yeah, we'll stay up at 10 p.m. on Wednesday night to support our lad.
New South Wales, we bleed blue! Philip and Icaso, FBC Sports.
The training and competition that Team Fiji athletes will get in Australia is vital for their preparation for the Tokyo Olympic Games. National swimmers Shayan Roba and Epeli Rambua have been pushing for qualification and are hoping the next few weeks of training will put them in a stronger position. Tale Materakula reports.
This is the opportunity Fiji swimming need as their training schedule have been disrupted since last year.
As part of the training, there's a competition where they've been entered in for. It's the 2021 Courtyard by Marriott, New South Wales country. Yeah?
The training and the level of competition will also boost the swimmers, having been challenged with limited resources locally.
Having this opportunity not only for them to go overseas and complete their final training preps, the best we can do as a federation is to, give them this exposure.
The onus is now on the athletes to capitalize on the opportunity.
Even though they're training as hard as they can, is probably not as good as if they were in an environment that had the proper facilities and the proper support, in terms of high-level coaching and all of that.
Apart from Rova and Rambua, Taichi Vakasama, who is also a contender for an Olympic sport, is training locally. Tali Matirkula, FBC Sports.
Competition overseas is the only option for Olympic hopefuls Eugene Volma and Banube Tambakaudoro, with COVID restrictions still in place for Fiji. And with only 45 days to go to the Tokyo Games, the two athletes are running out of time, and competition is crucial to achieve personal bests. Tambakaudoro and Volma left Fiji over the weekend and are currently undergoing the 14-day mandatory quarantine in Queensland, Australia. Penina Rakatonga has more.
The fight for the lone universality spot is now on for the duo.
International meets always pose a different atmosphere compared to the local meets. There's a lot more motivation. There's a lot more athletes who are of your caliber, of a higher standard, and that pushes you to do your best.
Volma says the 14-day quarantine is a hindrance as they will miss a few competitions, but a program is in place for them.
We'd have only one competition to compete in on the 25th. And we're looking forward to that one. But whilst in quarantine, our coaches have put together a training regimen, something we can do in the confinement of our room.
South Pacific Sprint King Banove Tambakaudoro says it is disappointing that the last few months of preparations had to be disrupted, but the athletes are working to overcome the challenges.
Actually got just one competition there, and the rest of the 2 or 3 weeks will just be based off training, but at least we get to use the tracks and the gyms as well.
The other athlete also vying for the universality spot is Fiji's shot put champion Mustafa Fall. Penina Rakatonga, SPC Sports.
Netball Fiji is working closely with its Australian counterparts to prepare competitions for young netters once restrictions ease, with a number of plans for the year up in the air since the onset of the second wave of COVID-19 in Fiji. Federation President Rubian Sorobaki says Netball Fiji is using the time to look at other options like travelling overseas for game time.
The support that we're getting from Netball Australia also allows for two competitions closer to the end of the year. So an under-21 competition, which would have been held here in Suva, just the Pacific Island teams, including Australia and New Zealand.
The Fiji Football Association has started assisting players affected by the second wave of COVID-19 with food rations. The first team to receive the assistance were 18 Lautoka players today. These players were identified following a survey that indicated their need for help. FIGFA will roll out assistance in phases, where the 8 Digicel Premier League districts and the 6 Digicel Women's Super League districts will be assisted this week. This will be followed by all Viti Levu senior men's and senior women's teams next week after thorough verification is done. The cost of one food pack given to a player is $180, which is expected to assist them for 1 month.
And most of the players, after a survey that was done, they're dependent on football as their income. And the districts, when they don't have income themselves coming in, then it becomes the duty of the parent body, FIGFA, to make sure that we come in some form of help for them.
That's it from sports tonight. Coming up in Weird and Wonderful, ideas for people worried about not fitting back into their work clothes post-pandemic. Find out more after the break.
A cool southerly wind flow prevails over the group, and that's leading to some cold nights around the country. Generally fine weather prevailed in the Western Division today. Eastwards from Pacific Harbour to Suva, some sun in the morning and turning cloudy in the afternoon with scattered showers. And in the north, partly sunny with a shower late this afternoon. At sea, southerly winds 10 to 15 knots, moderate seas, moderate southerly swells. The next low tide is at 11:29 tonight, with the next high tide at 5:43 a.m. Sunrise is at 6:33. For tomorrow, generally fine weather with cloudy periods. And the outlook for Thursday, mainly fine weather over most places. Cool nights can be expected. In Fijian Pulse, we ask, have you been getting any physical exercise during the current restriction period?
I do physical exercise during this lockdown period to stay fit, because when we eat a lot, we have to do a lot of exercise to keep ourselves fit in this lockdown period.
We also took the time out every time we go back home, like 2 hours training 3 times a week.
In the lockdown period,
Even though I was doing nothing at home and just eating, I wanted to focus on my physical activity.
And recapping our main stories, COVID-19 Delta variant, highly transmissible, Parliament precinct closed yet again, and police warns not to discourage people from getting vaccinated. For these stories and others, you can tune in daily to our sister radio station, Gold FM. To our poll question, this week we are asking, should those spreading misinformation about the vaccine be charged? Visit our FBC News website to answer. And remember, you can send us newsworthy pictures and videos. Email fbcnews@fbc.com.fj or share it with us via our various social media accounts. You can also download our FBC app to keep updated with the very latest in news and sports and listen to our 6 radio stations live. That's your news this evening. I'll see you again tomorrow. Until then, stay safe. Odemanda.